I'm all done. 90 days have been accomplished, and these are all the sketchbooks that my 90 days lives in. It seems like a lot, but technically my 90-day sketchbook challenge does not really fill all of these. I got in the art creation sketchbook briefly, but it didn't really meet my needs for the watercolor gouache combination that I was doing. And then I moved back into the Strathmore mixed media journals 5x7, and that seemed to meet my needs the most. But only one journal is really packed with the 90-day sketchbook challenge. So, but yeah, I can't believe it. We finally did it. And I also get my reward today. That means this is my very final 90-day reward for finally completing the full challenge. So I'm going to be sharing that today at the end of the video. So make sure you hang out with me to see that and what I got. I've been really looking forward to getting this particular award. It's something I've been thinking about for a very long time. I've been coveting for a very long time. So yeah, I'm really anxious to take them out and play with them. So I want to share that with you today. So it should be fun. Anyway, so into the challenge. So this is 3 months of me completely making sure that I was drawing every single day in my sketchbook, drawing, painting. And I was doing this, of course, after working full time, no nights off, working on something to share with you in my sketchbook, both here and on Instagram. And if you want to go back and look at my work on Instagram, I'm also over there as Reese Osborne Studio, just like I am here. So you can follow me there as well and check out all the sketchbook stuff together, pretty much. There might have been a couple of days that I actually didn't like, so I felt like it didn't fit into my Instagram feed, so they got admitted, but it just was a couple of little faux pas that I wasn't too happy about. Of course, you could go back and watch the other videos that I've made on this sketchbook challenge. There's quite a few now. I can't remember how many. 7 or 8, I'm not sure. And so there's that to go back and look at. But moving forward, this does not mean this is the end of my sketchbook or my time on YouTube or the end of my artwork or any of that stuff. I continue to plan to share with you a whole bunch of fun creative stuff coming up. And I've even got another trip to South Korea planned. And that trip is going to be all art-based. One of my reasons for going back to South Korea this year is spend time mostly in one general location. Maybe I'll do a few bus rides or something out of the center of the area that I'm going to be staying at. And I just want to kind of immerse myself and do a whole lot of sketchbook art type work. So I'll be trying to share as much as possible of that trip as well. But going back to my sketchbook and answering the question I got from one of the viewers was that they wanted to know whether or not what my final thoughts were about the challenge, how I felt about the experience, whether I thought it was helpful, and whether or not I enjoyed it. But I think like all of life, it unfolded like life unfolds. There were days I felt really happy about what I was doing. I felt very much in the flow. Other days I felt like I had utter failures, and it was hard knowing that, okay, this is now represented in the sketchbook and I can't really walk it back. Not unless you cover it up with a page or something, but I tried not to do that, and I haven't done it yet. But did it make me happy? Yes, I think it made me happy, but not every day. Not every day. Like I said, if I was in the flow, and there were times that I was like, I've got this. This is going well. I'm happy with my results. But then there'd be other days, there'd be a complete failure, and that was frustrating. especially knowing I'm sharing it all with all of you and I'm sharing it on Instagram. So there was a lot of that going on in my head as well. But even though, yes, the days that were great were really great, there were a couple days because I'm working full time, and after working full time and coming home and doing all the things that I have to do with myself and the people I love in my life, I would have to draw, and paint in my sketchbook, because that was the commitment that I had made to myself and to everybody out there that was watching. This was my plan. Obviously, the goal was for me, myself, and I'm very glad. I felt like, yes, I did establish a good habit. It was actually a little difficult that first day that I didn't paint after the 90th day. And I was like, wow, I feel like I should be going into my art room and painting something. But I took like 2 or 3 days off, so I have not painted anything since then. I think I doodled in my sketchbook one day, but that is about it. and that's good. That's good. I still give myself room for grace, so understanding those tough moments and knowing that both the good and the bad are there to teach me and to help me grow. So I survived. I pushed through those difficult moments, and the worst day was, I think it was maybe a weekend that I had a lot going on at work, and I had to do a YouTube video, and I was struggling. One day I forgot. I almost forgot. After filming for YouTube all day and doing everything that I was doing, all the editing and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I gotta go and work in my sketchbook. But I did something really quick and it counted. So I gave myself grace and it was okay. It's okay, because it's really, at the end of the day, it's my own experience, my own challenge that I had given for myself that I'm just sharing. So, but yeah, no, I think it's definitely worth it. And I think if you want to do this, I think it's very much worth it, and I highly recommend it. But you don't have to do this challenge. It was just, for me, a solution with the reward system, that I would have something there to keep encouraging me to move forward and achieve my goal. And I knew that I only wanted to do the 3 months, so I felt like that was plenty of time. And I think if you saw the video before where I was talking about habits, it's psychologically backed that 90 days is a great number of days to establish a habit solidly. And so that's what we did, and now we're done. So I'm going to hop onto my table now, or you're going to hop onto the table, and we're going to set you up so you can watch, and I'm going to share with you my sketchbook final few pages. So let's hop on. So these are all the sketchbooks that I worked in for the 30, 60, 90 day sketchbook challenge. And not every book is full, because I started in this book. This book already had some artwork in it, so it was only partially with a sketchbook challenge. Not sure why I didn't start with a brand new book. Maybe I didn't have an extra book, I'm not sure. Then I decided to try this art expression sketchbook, which, while I liked a couple of the pages that I did not like this for the method that I was using, of the mixture of watercolor and gouache for the most part. And this is the book that is all packed with the sketchbook challenge, and it is packed, and I felt like this is where I was the most successful from this point, and then in the final pages that went into this book, which were not very many. But yeah, that's the stack of books from the challenge. But what I did really quickly was I thought I would just go through my favorite things that I did for this sketchbook. And let's see, first of all, so this was actually where the sketchbook challenge started. I had done this landscape, which it's a place that I hike, and it's one of my favorite places. It's basically a flat woods ecosystem. There's lots of really large pine trees and sable palms, and there's a clay bottom pond, a seasonal pond, in the middle of the park. And anyways, I have spent a lot of time there as an adult, and had a lot of reference pictures, and this was one from dusk. That's what I had done for the very first thing that I wanted to do. But some of the other favorite things that I did was like this duck. This was actually a picture. I'll show you the duck up close. This was a picture that I took near my office. It was very green and rainy that day. We've been getting tons of rain. And this duck, there was actually a couple of ducks, but I chose to end up doing just the one duck. And the background of the pond was just all reflecting green from the trees that were behind it into the water. And it was just this amazing patchwork of abstract colors and shapes with this beautiful little duck. And so I really love that a lot. One of my favorite things, especially based off my own resource. It's not somebody's work that I'm copying. And then this was from the Andrew Wyeth trip when I went up to the Brandywine area to go to the museum and Chad's Ford and visit the Kerner Farm. And that's from inside the Kerner Farm. Then this page was a reference page from a book that I had after Emile Friant. So it was a little landscape. And I did a portion of that landscape. And I really love how it turned out and how backlit. And it looks very much like an oil painting. And I didn't do this during the challenge, but I also like this little tiny landscape of the river. One of the rivers near me. And then in the next sketchbook, I had hopped into this for a bit, as I mentioned. And this was one of my favorite things I did. And because these pages really aren't meant for like water, it's not mixed media or anything, although I know people use it for that sometimes, but they get very buckly. So what I had done was I put a foundation of some acrylic on there before I painted on top. And I did this still life of the corn. And I really love the details right there. It really turned out nice with the silks and stuff, and I really loved this particular page, to be honest, but that's my personal preference. I just think it's lovely. And I think, and I did this. This is also from the Chad's Ford trip, just a historic home, looking up from underneath at a drastic angle, and the beautiful sky and the swirls and the brick. I created a kind of a look like what brick looks like, just using my brush. A flat brush is all I did. So I like that a lot. And then this was the book that got the most work done. It's all 100% from the sketchbook challenge, because I decided to completely move into this book. And from this book, I mean, some of my favorites were this lady from the William McGregor Paxton book that I have. And I did also a sped up version of me painting this on a video recently. And I really liked how she turned out for the most part. I wish her flesh was a little bit more consistent, but all in all, pretty happy with it. Then I really did love all the John Singer Sargent stuff. I think I fell even more in love with John Singer Sargent's watercolors, just by trying to practice them. And then I even started seeing things I had never seen before while I was studying it. And I'm like, oh, I never realized that this was there. And, you know, like in this image in the book, for some reason when I looked at it, I never really had understood that this particular shape was the reflection of probably an olive tree, based off of the leaves and the size and the spindliness of the tree itself. Probably an olive tree somewhere. It looks like Greece or something, but I'm not sure about that. And what else did I do that I loved so much? Let's see. I did some still lifes, and I thought they turned out well, especially this onion. I really thought the onion was a victory. The pear is alright, but I still have to finish this little spot that got messed up. But yeah, that onion looks fairly good, I feel. It looks fairly realistic. Not that that's always the goal, but... And then this was something from one of my own resources. This is a tree I love and one of the places that I love to hike. And just love the bare bones. This tree's technically dead when I found it, but the bones of it are still there. I think it's a sand pine, I'm not sure, and I just loved its bareness, that with the grass all behind it and the landscape in the distance. And I felt pretty successful about that sky, the color of the sky that we got with watercolors. And then I did a little still life here. These are all my own references. Then I had done a pear and a banana that I really enjoyed doing a lot, especially this, not a pear, a plum. And I thought he turned out really well, like really got a lot of depth and realism on how that form turns and looks realistic just by using watercolors. And I touched it with a slight touch of gouache right there, and then just barely a little bit there where that stem is. If you can see that stem, it has a lot of depth to it, I feel. Bananas turned out really good too. But the plum was my favorite thing that day. Then I love doing the Andrew Weiss scarecrow, and I had a reference for my own scarecrow, and I enjoyed putting those back to back, and I thought that was really fun. There was a lot of stuff in this book that I ended up being very happy about. The day I wasn't feeling well, and I just sat on my couch and sketched my pillow at the end of the couch and my art book on Whistler, and then I just did a wash over it with watercolors. It's fairly easy. And then, while I'm still a little conflicted by this orange because I didn't like the way I turned it into the darkness here. This is all like stippling. Like once you put in the foundation color, a very light wash, then you start working in the darks to give it the roundness, the form for that 3D effect. And it's just all layering, and then touches of again some gouache to create a look of a highlight on that flesh of that orange. And then I also showed a sped up version in one of my videos doing a part of this. It started off, this leaf was completely 100% yellow, and because I felt like that was the foundational lightest color, and then I just started layering everything on top of that. Then this was my other favorite thing that I really did. These are my opera glasses that I shared. And this is Joaquin Sorolla, it's his wife. I did a watercolor interpretation of one of the paintings in his book. And again, sharing the opera glasses. These are my antique opera glasses that I used. And they have an undertone of green. And that's what I was trying to work out with this, was because it's mother of pearl and there's so many various colors, I figured out the most common color underneath was green, And then once I had green, I started putting other touches of colors on it, browns and pinks and just dabs of different colors to give it that kind of an effect of mother of pearl. I'll show it to you up close. So I mean, clearly it's not exact. It's something I did within a few hours. So, but I like the way that turned out a lot. And then I loved my eggs and this feather here. My copy of N.C. Wyeth, an oil painting that he had done, and another still life of an apple. Then on to a beautiful couple of paintings from Joke Freema. She's a famous living artist and does beautiful, beautiful work. If you haven't seen her work, check her out on Instagram. She has an Instagram page, Joke Freema. And I've always loved this pair especially, so I just took the time to try to see if I could capture it. And I think I did fairly well on that. It was a fun exercise. Then this was another favorite thing I did, which was an N.C. Wyeth, which is Andrew Wyeth's father, who was an illustrator. His tree that he did in an illustration. And I really enjoyed playing with that, making it look very, very moody and almost haunting looking. Then, not looking at this painting that I don't like that much, but I liked my little painting I had done from a reference photo. This was an ecosystem where a prescribed fire had been applied, and it was after the fire. But as I said, there are a lot of things I really enjoyed in my sketchbook this time. This particular sketchbook, I felt really well. I went into, I got into a groove, and again, loving the John Singer Sargent watercolors. This was the study of Madame X, if you didn't see last week's video. And then these are my final pages. So this was the page that I had done the Madame X study from, and then this was his watercolor study of El Jaleo, which is a really large painting in real life, the final work, but this was a watercolor study he had done. So yeah, that's a pretty beautiful image as well. And then I did this gourd painting. But the gourd painting was painted out of the other book. The other reference came from this book. And so that's what I used as a reference. So mine was not as big, clearly, but the general idea was still there. And the color scheme, I think, for the most part, but Sargent clearly did it better. But that's okay, we're gonna give him a win for today. But there were a lot of things I took out of both these books. So then into my final book and the last few final pages. Again, I did another John Singer Sargent painting. I think I'm just going to flip through these and try to show the pictures as we go or at the end. I'm not sure, we'll see. But I'm just going to flip through because there's just a few pages left now. This was day 83. And these are all John Singer Sargent. Then I did this beautiful landscape he did. I think it was when he was visiting here in Florida. These are sable palms, and that's a stereotypical view of the hot state of Florida. And I love this image of this lady laying in the grass, so I did that. Then I decided to go over to Andrew Wyeth, and this was also on opposite pages in the book that I used as a reference. It's the same house from a couple different angles that he did, but it was very dark and moody, and it certainly it was, I thought, interesting to be consistent in trying to represent those together, just like it was in the book. And then I did a still life, or 2 still lifes. I did this sunflower, which I really enjoyed a lot. I had actually bought myself some congratulatory flowers from the grocery store, and it was sunflowers and baby's breath. And I saw this from the side, and I thought, that's really beautiful. I loved all the, I don't know what you call it, tendrils or whatever, which this is like the pod that the flower is in before it blooms. And I just loved how they were so flowing and moving and provided such a cool contrast against the flower itself. And then you can see how there's a darkness in the flower here, and it was lighter on the edge where the light was being transparent through the flower. So that was pretty good. And then I decided to do another onion. This is obviously a purple onion, but all in all, I think it turned out pretty well. I love the reflection that I got. So when I was painting, my sketchbook was right here, and it was actually sitting on my wood table, but I just completely omitted the wood table in this instance. And this light is from the reflection of the white paper in my sketchbook, reflecting off the edge of the onion on its darker side. And the lightest spot being over here where the light was hitting it. And I love this thin papery piece of onion skin that had fallen loose. And it was thin enough that the light was filtering through, and it was creating like a purple color on the table. And there was also a little bit of reflection of purple on this side in the shadows as well. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that as well. Still lifes are really a wonderful thing to study to improve your skills. And then technically this is the very last image. This is the 90th day. And it looks very simple, and it is simple. It's just an egg, but I kind of thought this would be a perfect thing to do for my final day, showing a sphere and how you turn a form and represent the lightest light and the darkest darks, and the midtones, and all the various values and the bouncing of light off of the cloth itself. And then I feel like there was like a touch of like red that was kind of being filtered onto the yellow blanket, and I think that was from the yolk inside being somewhat made transparent from the light source being over here. And yeah, I thought it was fairly successful, and I also like the looseness of it as well. And then for fun, I had this basket with some fake daisies in it, and I wanted to play with the basket weave, and so I sketched it out first, and then I just really did a loose wash. And so you can see that's the basket weave that I did, and working it all out in a drawing ahead of time, and then just very loose interpretation of those fake daisies that I had. And that's it. That's the end. That's the very end of the sketchbook challenge. So now on to the reward. So what I decided to get, and when I first started this challenge, this was the item that I've coveted for a long time, and I wanted a larger set, but I compromised because of the price range being high. But it was something that was at the forefront of my mind when I started this challenge. And so what I got myself was a Schminky Hordam Aquarella kit or set. So let me put this other thing aside for right now. So what I got here was the 24 colors, and these are let's see, 24, I think they're half pans. And so I have to unwrap all these lovely little things. And let's see, what is this? I think, yeah, this is the swatching thing that they gave you. So that will be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. Just unwrapping all those, that'll take a while. But yes, this is something I've always thought I really wanted to try. I could have got one of those dot cards, but I just really wanted to have something to play with, but not something that was super expensive. Like, I didn't want to spend $300 on one of their larger sets. So this was, I think it was 150 or something like that. 130, 150, somewhere in there. I'll put a link down below. And that's what I decided to get. I have a couple of little tubes of their watercolors, but this was what I wanted the most. And I thought after completing 90 days, that was a really lovely gift to give myself. So I am going to be swatching that out in the future. There's lots of swatching of schmanky Horadam watercolors. I don't know if you want to watch a full-on swatching. We'll see. You can let me know in the comment down below. But my other thing that I got, which is very much in line with that was my main reward. But what I also got was a couple of really large watercolor brushes. So I love the Raphael brush. I have smaller versions of Raphael brushes that I really adore. And while I have some of these types of watercolor brushes, I don't know exactly what you call them. But this is imitation squirrel. It's not a real squirrel. I try my best not to buy stuff that is real animal fur, because just the practice of keeping animals, and then I don't know, but it's a personal preference. But just, I don't really want to know that my brush was tortured just so I could paint. But that's just me. But this is this one here, Raphael. This was number 6. And then I got, this one's not even torn open yet. I think I took the other one out of the box, or out of the bag already. And then this big boy is a number 8. And I thought these two together would be fun to play with, along with, I don't know if you saw that giant brush that I bought, which that's just going to be something to play with completely. But these are more applicable to actual painting, but really large areas. So that's what I got myself. Something I don't normally need. I don't have any watercolor brushes quite this size. Probably the largest brush I have in watercolor, and maybe it's a cat's tongue. But I thought those would be really fun to play with. Okay everyone, I guess I will wrap up the video right here. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and leave me a comment or an emoji down below so I know that you made it this far. Let me know how you liked the video, if you've gotten inspired, or if you're doing your own sketchbook challenge yet, or what your habits are, what your practices are in your sketchbook, and how you keep yourself motivated. So with that, I guess we will wrap it up. Scooby is signing off as well. So we wish you a beautiful, blessed, and creative week ahead, and we will see you in next week. Bye! Annyeong! Cheep cheep! Bye Scooby! Say goodbye! Bye! Annyeong! So long!